some folks are commenting on the 2021 class, which I just pulled up with, and this is extremely early, very, very preliminary here. Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida, Texas, Wisconsin, Oregon, Iowa, Miami at 9 with 7 commits.
Yeah, and I mean a few decommits already, unfortunately, just because that's the way that things go. But I mean, look, there's some good talent already in that class for 2021. You have Andres Borregales, Jose's younger brother, kicker from Chaminade, who is committed. Excuse me, and he routinely hits 50 and 60-yard kicks in high school. And so you can go from one Borregales to another. Somebody asked Jose Borregales, the grad transfer from FIU, about his brother by name in his media availability the other day, which is a primary violation. It's not a secondary violation. It's a primary violation for anybody on the program to mention a recruit by name. And it's like, he's like, I can't talk about my family or anything. I'm here to talk about myself. And I'm just like, bro, like, I mean, whoever that was, like, you asked for a primary violation. You know what I mean? What are you doing? But I mean, he's in that class. You have Lawrence Seymour, who's one of the longest tenured commits, offensive lineman from Miami Central, Savion Collins from Palmetto, a defensive tackle, Shimon Mateer from Miami Central also, Tyler Johnson, that's Jaquan Johnson's younger brother, who's bigger physically. He's an outside backer at 6'2", 200 pounds. Khalil Brantley is a wide receiver, probably going to move inside to tight end, 6'2", 190, almost 200 pounds, but he's not the fastest, but like a flex tight end will be a good position for him. Tim Burns, that's Artie Burns' younger brother, at cornerback is in there. Ja'Cory Hamet he's not ranked right now, but he's a Miami Northwestern defensive end outside linebacker in that Sam Brooks mold, but like 2 inches taller than Sam Brooks. So like he's in that class already. So I mean, they're good names among those 8. Now, we're obviously working, Miami, to get some of these decommits back in the boat. As I click over there, the one that I don't even need to wait for this website to load is the number 1 safety in America, James Williams. 6'5", 195 pounds. And he was committed to Miami. He decommitted, but like he's everybody's All-American. He's a top 5 national player. So basically, he is to the safety position in 2021 what Justin Flo was to the linebacker position in 2020, except for he's local and he's massive. I mean, early on, you have a kid who grows that tall and you think, okay, he's going to be outside linebacker. And anytime that, people tweet that, he said, I'm a safety. And like, after having watched him as a junior and a senior, those years where you think that like he might expand this way, like me, like, no, the kid's a safety and he's different because his size, so he's a guy that Miami's trying to get back in this class in 2021. Romello Brinson from Miami Northwestern is a wide receiver who's also committed. Might want him back. Another couple wide receivers, Jacoby George and Fred Eford from Plantation and Hialeah, respectively. And then Anthony Hundley, who was at Booker T. Washington as a defensive tackle. We might not circle back on the last one, but I mean, there's a lot of talent, and I'll look into those guys more and even more guys. And I do have some that are in my brain that I'm not mentioning. Obviously, we're chasing some quarterbacks and some things like that. But, 2021 could be the foundation of stacking another good class on top of 2018 or 2020, excuse me. But you got to go and win games. To the question that was on the screen about what is a blue chip prospect, the definition of a blue chip prospect is a prospect who is ranked as a 4-star or 5-star player. So you're not really going to see 0-star. I mean, 0 stars are guys who've not been evaluated. 1 stars, you're not going to see them because they're not, FBS, FCS level talent. Those are maybe your Division III kind of guys. You might see a 2-star who is like, he's either going to be too short or too light for his thing. When Zion Nelson was committed to App State, he was a 2-star because he was 6'5", 235 pounds, 240, playing left tackle. So he didn't fit the physical profile because he was 55 pounds too light. You know what I mean? 3 stars, that's your catch-all kind of thing. It's like he has a name. He's probably going to go to a FCS or FBS team, your Division I or Division I AA, depending on your memory and sensibility. And yeah, there's a wide variety of 3 stars, like the barely known to the almost 4-star, but there's something in his athletic profile or on-field performance which keeps him from being that. 4 stars, those are your guys who you expect to be foundation players for your program. There are fewer of those because they're the higher potential caliber athletes, both on usually demonstrated performance and future athletic potential based upon, their skill set and their build and, where their bodies and things can go. 5 stars, those are your no-brainers. Those are your superstars. Those are the ones who they come in day one and things are different. Those are your Duke Johnsons. Those are your Trevor Lawrences. Those are your Justin Fields. Those are your Reggie Bushes. Those are your Calvin Johnsons. Well, he wasn't even a 5-star. He was a 4-star. But like those guys, the ones who are like, we're going to use them as much as we can over these next 3 years because they're on a quick trip to the NFL. Those guys who are just built different. Alex Leatherwood, when he went to Alabama, now that's the guy who came to Paradise Camp and spoke highly of Miami. He comes in at 6'5", 295, starts at left tackle as a true freshman for Alabama. That's a 5-star. A guy who looks different. Evan Neal last cycle, 6'7", 365, playing left guard at Alabama and might eventually maybe try to move out to tackle. Guys who are just absolutely, and look, you guys know the guys that we've missed on. Your Jerry Judys of the world, your old Grandpa Ridleys, your Julio Jones, your like guys like that are 5 stars. So yeah, your blue chip guys are 4 stars and 5 stars. And you can look this up because Bud Elliott at Banner Society, which used to be the SB Nation National College Football website, but they rebranded and things like that. He's talked about this for many, many years. To be a championship caliber team, your roster needs to be more than 50% blue chips. So 4 stars and 5 stars than 3 stars and 2 stars. Now you can be good and have 3 stars and 2 stars. Sometimes your 3 stars develop really well. So they can be guys like a De'Aaron King, who, if he was 6'2", would have been a 4-star or 5-star, but he's not. He's 5'10". But you can outplay, your ranking and things like that. So this is why we talk about rankings matter, but they're not the be all end all. But yeah, you want higher caliber guys because the better talent that you have, the better that you can potentially perform. So you want to have more of those blue chips. And it's been demonstrated that if you have over 50% of your roster as blue chips, then you have an actual chance to be conference or national championship contender. So that's a little bit of a walk through that. And I urge you to look it up. Bud Elliott writes a different or a new installment of the blue chip ratio piece where he evaluates every team in America to see which ones actually hit that ratio of having more than 50% on their roster of blue chip caliber talents. And then also, if you look up some of his older work on the topic, he delves into it a little bit deeper than I've just explained.
So let me do the math real quick. If we've got 130 FBS teams that have 80 to 105 on the roster, something in that range, so that's about 13,000 players, 100 per 13,000 players. 75 in the Power 5, that's about 7,500 players. So divide that by roughly 4. So you've got about 1,200. No, you've got about 18 or 1,900 new collegiate football players in the Power 5 every year.
Yeah,
something in that range, 18 or 1,900. Only, according to the 247 composite, this year, 31 of them, 31 out of 1,900 are 5-star players. So 119 out of that, 190, that's a 10%. You're talking like
1.6%.
1.6%. So here's where they went. Georgia 4, Alabama 4, Clemson 5, LSU 3, Ohio State 3, Texas A&M 2, Florida 1, Texas 1, Oregon 3, Washington 1, Notre Dame 1, South Carolina 1. That should be it.
Yeah.
Maryland 1.
Oh yeah,
not
Raheem
a whole
Jarrett,
lot of those
5-star
guys walking
receiver.
around.
Exactly. Like we can sit here and like literally name. He's like Mark said. Oh, Maryland 1. I said it. I was talking over him and I apologize, but I said, oh, Raheem Jarrett, the 5-star wide receiver. Like I can name these guys. You know what I mean? There's very few of them who are those caliber of players. But yeah, there's a little bit there are more 4 stars, than
So what would your guess be on the number of 4 stars typically in about 300? Like if ESPN lists your top 300, it's something in that range?
A ballpark, 300, give or take 20, either way. You know what I mean? But still, out of 1,900, what are we talking? I can actually do it. 300 divided by 1,900 is, okay, that's 15.8%. So you add the 1.6, 16.3, that's 17.3% of the players who came into the Power 5 conferences are that caliber of player. So now when we're talking about on your team, in your recruiting class, over half of them, or on your roster, over half of those players are these caliber guys. This is why you see the teams to the top stay to the top, because again, if only 16 and a half, 17% of the recruits coming to the Power 5 conferences are 4-star and 5-star blue chip guys, you know what I mean? But they're being hoarded by these teams who have more than half of their rosters comprised of that. Now you're going to get the random Ed Oliver to Houston, a kid from Houston who wanted to stay in Houston. You're going to get the random 5-star somewhere. Well, you're going to random 4-star somewhere, like, you know what I mean? That
like even Maryland,
right? But that's
even though it's a Big Ten team, it's still very random.
No, but I'm saying apart from Raheem Jarrett, you might have a guy who's like, you might have 2 or 3 outliers who are just like, I want to be at home. I'm going to Fresno State. I'm going to Houston. I'm going to, Boise or whatever, like things like that. You're not going to see those guys in most places. That's 17% of the recruiting class, that cream of that crop at the top there. It's staying to the top, which is why all these recruiting battles matter so much, because so many people want a scarce resource. This is why we're talking about everybody coming to South Florida to try to find these guys, the top end guys from here, because there's a finite amount of them. You're not going to go everywhere and find a Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, all these guys, who are from here at wide receiver or any other position, any other guy. You know what I mean? You're not going to find many of those guys elsewhere. So that means everybody who's looking for a guy like that, who fits that profile, they come and they converge on that same guy. If you look at a Justin Flo, Miami, USC, Texas, Clemson, Georgia, everybody, they said, look, there's like one of those, maybe 2 of those in this class. So that means if you want or need one of those guys and you have the ability to get them, that means that we're all going to be there trying to get that guy. And then, Clemson just said, okay, we're going to let him go. We're just going to get a 5-star from North Carolina, Trenton Simpson, cool, whatever. Because Clemson can do that. But again, like I said, there's 2 of them in this class. I've named both of them. You know what I mean? And Clemson was in on one and said, you know what? Fine, that's cool. You're going to stay out there and go to Oregon. We're going to get the guy around the corner from North Carolina, flip him off of that commitment. He's going to come to South Carolina, or get to South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina. And then that's going to be it. Because there were 2 comparably talented and physical profile guys. There's not a million of them. So everybody's fighting for these same resources. This is why recruiting is so crucial. And again, going all the way back to the beginning of today's live stream, where I was talking about Avante Williams, it's not just an ad for Miami to have gotten him. It's a double whammy because you kept him off of Florida's roster. Same thing with Isaiah Dunson. It's not just an ad for Miami. It's a detraction from Florida State. Because, again, we're all fighting for the same dues, the limited resources. You can say, okay, well, maybe you look at some other guys. Maybe you look at some other things. If those other guys had these athletic profiles, if they had the size, speed, potential, whatever, we would be on them. And by we, I mean anybody at the top of the college football world. It is very rare that you find somebody who just falls completely through the cracks. You're not going to have a Santana Moss anymore. A guy who played on a wing T triple option team that threw it 5 times a game throughout his entire high school career, and then walked on when he was on a track scholarship at Miami, walked on to the football team and became the legendary Santana Moss. You're not going to have that anymore. I mean, and there's a variety of reasons. The fact that there's less scholarships now. So the larger schools cannot just hoard those guys on the roster. It's more competitive. You have increased media, you have increased television showing, television coverage of things. So, I mean, yeah, you can go to another school. You can go to a Louisville from Florida and be on television in Florida enough where it's like, hey, your family might not be up there to see you at the game all the time, but they can see you play almost every weekend. The recruiting landscape has changed, but one thing that has not changed is if you are a really top-end recruit, a blue-chip recruit that you asked about, and I appreciate that question, there's going to be lots of teams in for the same guy, which is why winning those recruiting battles is essential.